Let me tell you something you don't want to hear, but need to. Success isn't about luck, talent, or connections. It's about effort. Not effort once, not effort for a week. Effort consistently, relentlessly, every single day until the world has no choice but to notice. You think success is hiding behind some secret hack? It's not. It's staring you in the face. You just don't want to admit it. Is working hard is uncomfortable. It's boring. It doesn't go viral, but it works. And the people who win, they don't avoid hard work. They chase it. They respect it. They master it. Here are 5 truths that will hit you hard, but if you live by them, they will change your life. Most people spend their lives believing that success is reserved for those who are born with something special. Maybe it's raw intelligence, natural charisma, or athletic ability. They look at winners and think they're just talented. It's a comforting lie, because if talent is the difference maker, then the pressure is off you. You get to say, well, I wasn't born with it, and that becomes your excuse. But here's the truth. Talent might open a door, but only work ethic keeps it open. The marketplace doesn't reward potential, it rewards proof. And proof comes from doing the work over and over, even when it's not fun, even when you don't feel like it, even when no one's watching. The person who works harder than everyone else, even if they're less naturally gifted, will win in the long run, because talent plateaus. It can give you a head start, but without the discipline to build on it, it fades. Work ethic, on the other hand, compounds. The more you do, the better you get. The better you get, the more valuable you become. And value is what the world pays for. You can't control your height, your IQ, or where you were born. But you can control if you show up early, stay late, study when others sleep, and work your craft like your life depends on it. Think about this. There are thousands of kids born every year with incredible talent. Some can run faster, draw better, or speak more eloquently than most adults. But how many of them turn that gift into greatness? Very few, because they lean on talent, they don't build the habits, they don't embrace the grind, they never develop the mental toughness that's required to win in the real world. Now compare that to the guy who maybe wasn't the smartest in the room, maybe didn't have the best resources, but who showed up every single day and put in the work. He made mistakes, he looked dumb, he failed publicly, but he kept going. He studied, he trained, he pushed, and over time he passed the talented people who thought they could coast. Here's a real world example. Take 2 young basketball players. One is a natural. He's tall, fast, coordinated, and everything just comes easy. He dominates in high school with minimal effort. The other one is average height, average skills, and gets overlooked. But he decides to work like hell. While the talented kid is partying and coasting, the underdog is watching game film, running extra drills, lifting at 6 a.m., working on his weaknesses relentlessly. Fast forward a few years. The talented kid barely makes it to college ball. He never learned how to grind. The other kid, he's now the leader of his college team. Coaches trust him. Teammates follow him. He's battle tested because he earned it. This isn't fiction. This plays out in every industry every year. In business, it's the scrappy entrepreneur who builds a multi-million-dollar company through brutal hours, smart iteration, and obsession with improvement, while the MBA from a top school gets stuck in middle management. In music, it's the unsigned artist who puts out 300 songs on their own, performs at empty bars, and figures it out piece by piece, while the kid with perfect pitch gives up when they don't blow up in a year. The hard truth is this: most people aren't willing to work hard enough for long enough without applause. But if you are, you become unstoppable, because every rep, every hour, every extra mile you run, it stacks up. And the results may not come overnight, but they always show up. The people who commit to hard work, not once, but consistently, they begin to play a different game. They're not waiting for opportunity. They create it. They don't need permission. They earn attention with results. And the beauty is, this kind of success is available to anyone. You don't need to be the smartest, strongest, or most creative. You just need to outwork the person who is. And that doesn't mean burning out. It means being intentional, focused, disciplined. It means saying no to distraction, saying yes to repetition. It means doing the boring stuff well and doing it often. Because over time, that's what builds mastery. When you show up earlier, stay later, and keep swinging when others quit, you don't just get better, you become dangerous. You become the person people can't ignore, not because you shouted the loudest, but because your work spoke so loudly it couldn't be overlooked. And that's where real power comes from, not from talent, from work, from sweat, from doing what others won't, so later you can do what others can't. So here's the bottom line. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop worrying if you're gifted enough. Start working like you've already been chosen, and then back it up with undeniable effort. Because in the end, it's not about what you were born with. It's about what you're willing to build. Every day, every hour, no excuses, just effort. Most people don't realize how much they are leaving on the table. They think they're giving their all, but in reality, they're only scratching the surface of their true capacity. Here's the truth that hits hard. Your brain is wired to keep you comfortable, not capable. It lies to you. It whispers things like, that's enough, or you're too tired, or you can't handle anymore. But those are not signs that you've hit your limit. They're just signals that you've hit resistance. And resistance isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's where most people stop. But if you want to be great, you can't be like most people. There's a principle known by elite performers, elite soldiers, and elite athletes. When your body feels like it's done, when your mind starts telling you to stop, you're usually only at about 40% of your actual limit. You still have 60% left in the tank, but you'll never see it unless you push through that wall. It's not because you lack strength, it's because you haven't trained your brain to tolerate discomfort. The average person quits when things get hard. They run from pain. Winners, they run toward it because they know that what feels like pain is really just growth in disguise. Discomfort is a test. Every time you push past it, you're telling your mind, I'm in control, not you. You're forging discipline, you're strengthening mental muscle, and you're building something far more valuable than talent, resilience. Because talent won't help you when you're tired. Talent doesn't save you when you're exhausted, rejected, or overwhelmed. But resilience does. The willingness to keep going when your brain is begging you to stop. That's the X factor. That's what separates the elite from the average. Imagine this, you're doing a set of push-ups. At 20 reps, your arms are burning, your chest feels tight, and your mind screams, enough. Most people stop there. But if you grind up 5 more, you realize something powerful. You didn't hit your limit, you hit your discomfort threshold. And discomfort is not the same as danger. Your brain confuses the two. It tells you to quit. Not because you're broken, but because you're not used to going further. Push past that signal and you find strength you didn't even know existed. Now multiply that push-up example across your entire life and your business, your relationships, your goals. How many times have you stopped at 40%? How many projects have you abandoned just when they were starting to matter? How many workouts did you cut short? How many dreams did you scale down? How many shots did you not take just because it got hard? Here's a real-world example. There was a young man training for the Navy SEALs, one of the most grueling mental and physical challenges on Earth. During Hell Week, candidates are pushed to their absolute limits with almost no sleep, constant physical punishment, freezing cold water, and endless drills. Most people quit, not because their bodies give out, but because their minds do. This guy hit a wall on the second night. He hadn't slept in over 40 hours, his legs were cramping, and he could barely think straight. But instead of quitting, he remembered something he'd learned. When you feel like you've given everything, you've really only given about 40%. He told himself that pain wasn't a stop sign, it was just noise. He broke the week down into micro goals. Just make it to the next meal, then the next run, then the next swim. One moment at a time, he pushed through, he didn't quit. And he made it not because he was the strongest, but because he understood that his brain's panic was a lie. He had more, he just had to access it. Now think about that mindset in your own life. You're not in freezing water or being screamed at by instructors, but your mind still tries to pull you out early. It tells you to stop writing that article when you're only halfway in. It tells you to cancel the sales call because you're not in the mood. It tells you to rest when you haven't even broken a sweat. And if you listen to that voice, you stay soft. You stay average. You never find your limits because you never reach them. You stop at 40%. You never get to experience what the remaining 60% could have done for your life. But once you learn to recognize that voice for what it is, a liar, a manipulator, a gatekeeper, you can ignore it. You can go further. You start to realize that the discomfort is actually feedback. It's proof that you're on the right path. If it's hard, it means it matters. If it's painful, it means you're growing. So instead of avoiding that pain, lean into it. Sit in it, smile at it, because every time you do, you're separating yourself from the millions who stop short. If you're becoming the kind of person who doesn't flinch when it gets hard, you double down. The rewards don't go to the people who start strong. They go to the people who finish. And to finish, you need to stop letting your brain sell you on easy exits. You need to build the habit of pushing past the first wall, then the second, then the third, and that's how you unlock the rest of your potential. The 60% that most people never touch, that's how you become unstoppable. So the next time it hurts, the next time you're tired, overwhelmed, or ready to quit, remember this, you're probably only at 40%. And the best part of you, the part that wins, that breaks through, that makes the impossible possible, that part lives in the other 60%. You just have to go get it. Most people make the mistake of waiting for motivation to arrive before they act. They say things like, I just don't feel inspired, or I'm waiting for the right moment. But here's the brutal truth. The right moment doesn't exist. And motivation is a lie. It's a fleeting emotion, a temporary spark that disappears as quickly as it arrives. Relying on motivation is like trying to build a house during a lightning storm. It might light things up for a second, but it's unreliable, unstable, and you'll be left in the dark more often than not. What actually builds results, real, lasting results, is discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it works. The difference between average and excellent isn't who's more motivated, it's who's more consistent. And consistency is only built through discipline. The people who win in life aren't the ones who feel good every day. They're the ones who show up, rain or shine, no excuses, made a decision once, and then they act on that decision every day regardless of how they feel. Think about how you treat brushing your teeth. You don't wake up wondering, am I motivated to brush my teeth today? You just do it. Why? Because you've made it non-negotiable. You've trained yourself to do it automatically, whether you're tired, late, or not in the mood. Now imagine if you treated your goals, your business, your fitness, your skills with the same level of discipline. What if it didn't matter how you felt? What if you just did the work every single day like it was part of your identity? That's when everything changes. Discipline removes the need to negotiate with yourself. It eliminates the internal debate. You're not waking up asking, do I feel like working today? You already know the answer. It doesn't matter. You've made a commitment. You're honoring it. You do the work not because you're in the mood, but because it's who you are. And the more you live this way, the easier it gets. Not because the work gets lighter, but because you get stronger. You build mental muscle. And just like in the gym, that muscle compounds. Here's the catch. Discipline starts hard. At first, it feels robotic, maybe even forced. But if you push through those early moments and do it anyway, it eventually becomes part of your rhythm. And once it's your rhythm, it becomes your identity. You stop saying, I want to be disciplined, and start saying, I am disciplined. That shift is powerful because identity is the most powerful force in human behavior. When something becomes part of who you are, you don't have to try, you just live it. Now let me give you a perfect example. There was a young man who wanted to become a writer. He dreamed of publishing books and sharing ideas with the world, but he only wrote when he felt inspired. Weeks would go by with nothing. Then he'd get a spark of motivation, write a few pages, and stop again. Years passed, and he had almost nothing to show for it. One day, he got fed up. He decided to change everything. He committed to writing every single day, no matter what, even if it was just 200 words. No excuses, no breaks. Some days the words were terrible. Some days he felt empty, but he sat down and wrote anyway. Fast forward 1 year, he had written over 300,000 words, enough for several books. And his writing had improved massively, not because he had more inspiration, but because he stopped chasing motivation and started practicing discipline. He didn't write when he felt like it. He wrote because it was part of his routine. He turned a dream into a habit. That's the difference between wishing and winning. The reality is, everyone has the same hours in a day. The winners just use them better, not because they have more motivation, but because they have stronger habits. And they don't need hype. They don't need a perfect playlist or a motivational video to start. They've trained themselves to begin. That's the secret. Motivation might get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going when life punches you in the face. Discipline is especially critical in the moments you least feel like showing up. That's where the edge is created. When it's cold and you're tired and you've got a dozen excuses, that's where your identity is forged. That's where the weak quit and the strong rise. Discipline gives you an unfair advantage because most people are still waiting for motivation to knock on their door. They don't realize that the door only opens when you start knocking first, and knocking every day, even when no one answers. You don't need to feel good to get results. You need to be reliable. You need to make your actions align with your values, not your emotions, because emotions are temporary, but values last. And if you value excellence, progress, and purpose, then you act in alignment with those things, even when it's inconvenient. It's discipline. You build discipline the same way you build anything, through reps. Small wins, daily consistency, and a commitment to act regardless of mood. Start small if you need to. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Do one more rep. Write one paragraph, but do it every single day. Stack those actions. Over time, those tiny acts of discipline create unstoppable momentum. You look back 6 months later, and you won't recognize the person you used to be. To stop waiting, stop looking for the perfect time, the perfect mood, the perfect playlist. None of it matters. What matters is that you decide, you commit, and then you execute over and over without needing to be told, without needing to be reminded, and without needing to be in the mood. Because that's what separates winners from wishers. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Cross it every day, without question. When most people think about success, they imagine highlight reels, the awards, the praise, the money, the breakthrough moments that make it all look glamorous, but they don't see what actually builds those moments. The truth is, success is built in silence. It's built in the trenches, not on the stage. It's not made from a single big move, but from 1,000 boring ones. It's not about having brilliant ideas or waiting for lightning to strike. It's about consistent, repeated execution of simple, unsexy actions that actually move the needle. The things that are so easy to overlook, so mundane, that most people ignore them. And that's exactly why those who master them win. The boring work is the real work. It's the cold calls no one wants to make. It's writing and rewriting emails, practicing pitches, refining offers, studying customer objections, improving process flows, revisiting fundamentals. It's the 6 a.m. workout when you're sore, the 2-hour study session when you're tired, the constant reps on the same skill until you can't get it wrong. None of that looks impressive on social media, but that's where the gains are made. If you're looking for excitement, success will leave you behind. If you're chasing novelty, you'll burn out. But if you learn to fall in love with repetition, with routine, with process, you become unstoppable. There's a reason top athletes practice the same drills thousands of times. There's a reason great salespeople follow the same script over and over and still find ways to improve it. It's because the basics, the boring, simple actions are the only things that scale. If it's boring, it's probably working. That's a hard pill to swallow in a world that celebrates dopamine hits and viral content. But real players don't care about flash, they care about leverage, they care about systems, and most of all, they care about showing up and doing what matters, even when it's not fun. People waste years chasing complexity, looking for hacks, thinking success is about being clever. But most of the time, it's not. It's about doing the right things repeatedly, without emotion, without distraction, without trying to impress anyone. It's about putting your ego aside and committing to the process, especially when it's dull. The reality is, success isn't a fireworks show. It's a brick wall, laid one brick at a time. And laying bricks is boring. But if you skip that part, your foundation will crumble the moment pressure hits. Here's a perfect example. There was a young man trying to build his online coaching business. He had the knowledge, the skill set, and the desire, but he kept getting stuck. Every time he saw a new strategy online, he'd switch his approach. One week he was focused on Reels, the next he was launching a course, then he tried ads. He kept bouncing between ideas, always chasing the next thing that promised faster results. Nothing stuck. Frustrated, he met a mentor who told him to do one thing: spend 90 days reaching out to 20 people a day, every day, without missing. Just build conversations. No gimmicks, no complex systems, just consistent outreach and follow-up. At first, the young man resisted. It felt too simple, too boring, but he trusted the advice and started doing it. No fancy funnels, no magic tools, just one action done repeatedly. It was brutal at first, repetitive, tedious, but he kept going. By day 30, he started getting replies. By day 60, he had booked dozens of calls. By day 90, he'd closed over $15,000, 0 cents in coaching packages. More than he'd made in the last year. Nothing had changed about him, just his commitment to doing the boring work. And now he understood the truth. Success comes to those who are willing to master the basics longer than anyone else. This is the principle in every domain. The best writers write every day, even when they're uninspired. The best coders debug the same type of issues over and over again. The best performers rehearse the same songs until every note is muscle memory. What looks boring to outsiders is actually the gold mine. Repetition isn't stagnation, it's refinement. You gain more clarity, more efficiency, and more precision. The boring work becomes your competitive edge because while everyone else is looking for shortcuts, you're getting sharper through discipline. But here's what separates the truly successful from the average. They don't just tolerate the boring work, they learn to love it. They treat it like a game. They track their metrics, they optimize their approach, they obsess over small details, they don't complain when it gets repetitive, they celebrate it. Because they know that's the exact moment when most people quit. And if you can keep going when everyone else stops, you gain a kind of momentum that's impossible to fake. So many people underestimate what consistency with boring work can do. They think if something's not exciting, it's not effective, but that's backwards. Excitement fades fast, it doesn't build empires. Boring consistency, on the other hand, lays the bricks day after day, year after year, until you look up one day and realize you've built something massive. Not because you were lucky, but because you were patient and deliberate. If you can find a way to fall in love with process over outcome, you'll never lose. You'll stop being addicted to results and start becoming addicted to action. And action repeated with focus creates unstoppable results. So next time the work feels boring, good. That means you're on the right path. That means you're doing the hard stuff no one sees, but everyone benefits from. Don't chase stimulation, chase results. And results only come from doing the boring work that actually moves the needle. Every day, without applause, without needing to feel like it, that's how you win, that's how you separate, that's how you dominate. In a world where attention is currency, where everyone's trying to be seen, heard, and noticed, the loudest voice in the room is often mistaken for the most successful. But true success isn't about noise, it's about undeniable proof. The people who win at the highest level don't spend their time telling the world who they are. They outwork everyone else until they no longer have to say a word. Their results speak louder than any introduction ever could. When you build something real, something that can't be faked, copied, or ignored, the world takes notice on its own. Most people get caught in the trap of appearances. They think success is about having the right look, the right followers, the right circle. So they spend all their energy trying to impress others instead of actually getting better. They network instead of practicing. They post instead of building. They talk instead of executing. The problem with that strategy is it only works until you're exposed, because at some point the conversation ends and results are all that's left. And when that moment comes, the people who put in the real work, quietly, consistently, relentlessly, are the ones who rise. Not because they shouted the loudest, but because they had the receipts to back it up. Work is the great equalizer. You don't need a fancy background, you don't need approval, you don't need permission, you just need proof. And proof is built in the dark. It's built in those lonely hours when no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one's validating you. It's built through repetition, through missed parties, through discipline. It's showing up day after day when your motivation is gone and the path feels endless. Most won't do it, and that's exactly why it works. People confuse visibility with value. Just because someone is well known doesn't mean they're excellent. And just because someone is unknown doesn't mean they're not elite. The best don't seek fame, they seek mastery. And mastery takes time. It requires sacrifice. But once you have it, the need to impress vanishes because your work becomes undeniable. When people see your results, they come to you. And when your product delivers, they talk about you. When your brand speaks truth, it travels without a microphone. Look at the greats in any field. They weren't the ones walking around declaring they were the best. They were the ones so good they couldn't be ignored. Their names became their introduction. Their body of work preceded them. Whether it's business, sports, music, or fitness, the same rule applies. Dominate your craft so completely that you're named as the talking. Your consistency is your strategy. Your output is your message. Your success is your signature. Here's a perfect example. There was a young man who didn't have a big network, no special connections, no flashy marketing. He was building a digital product in a competitive niche. And while everyone else in the space was obsessing over brand deals, follower accounts, and social strategy, he was obsessing over product. He didn't post much. He didn't go to events. He didn't beg for collaborations. He just built every day. He tested, he iterated, he improved his product relentlessly, listened to his customers, and kept his head down. Months passed. Then a few of his early users started raving about the tool, word of mouth spread, influencers began using it, not because they were paid, but because it worked. Eventually the product went viral, not because he shouted, but because the results were too good to ignore. The same people who once brushed him off were now asking to be involved. The best part, he never had to introduce himself. His work did it for him. It's what happens when you outwork everyone. You create leverage, you flip the script. While everyone else is marketing, you're manufacturing proof. While they're rehearsing their elevator pitch, you're building something worth talking about. Success doesn't need hype, it needs substance, and substance takes work. Deep, disciplined, often unseen work. This doesn't mean you never speak up or promote yourself. It means your focus is on earning attention, not demanding it. Your mindset shifts from look at me to watch what I've done. When you approach your career, your business, your goals from this place, you carry a different kind of confidence. One that can't be shaken because it's rooted in results. And the more results you create, the less you need to explain who you are. This also means embracing patience, because becoming undeniable doesn't happen overnight. It's a long game. It's grinding when no one's clapping, believing when no one's watching, and performing like the world is paying attention, even when it's not. That's the paradox. When you act like everyone's watching and work like no one is, you end up building something so powerful that everyone does start paying attention. And the people who rise are the ones who are obsessed with craft. They don't just want applause, they want legacy. They're not trying to be liked, they're trying to be respected. And respect is earned in silence. It's earned by showing up, getting better, and delivering results over and over again until there's no debate left. So if you want to win, stop worrying about how to be seen and start focusing on how to be so good they can't ignore you. Stop introducing yourself with words and start introducing yourself with output. Build the business, build the skill, build the body of work that makes people take notice without you having to ask. Be the person who outworks everyone, not to prove a point, but to leave no doubt, because once your work becomes your introduction, you'll never have to explain yourself again. The one rule isn't complicated, it's not hidden, it's simple. Work freaking hard. While others are waiting for signs, you become the signal. While others are watching YouTube videos on how to get rich, you're actually doing the work that makes people rich. Success doesn't come to those who want it when it comes to those who earn it. So stop looking for shortcuts, roll up your sleeves, and get to work.